Anyway, Matthew chapter 6. We're going to be talking about verses 19 through 34 this morning. 19 through 34. So you're going to be turning there. And while you're turning, have you ever stopped to think about the wealthiest countries in the world? The wealthiest countries in the world. Well, the top 5 are right here behind you, behind me, in front of you. The United States, China, those two are no surprises, right? Japan, Germany, and then France. I think what surprised me was in the top 10 list, India made the top 10. That was kind of shocking. But anyway, these 5, there are no big surprises on this list of the wealthiest countries in the world. But now, have you stopped to think about the countries that worry the most in this world? Well, worldwide stress levels have reached a new record, with the U.S. leading with some of the highest rates in the world. The people with the most money worry the most. So what is it that most Americans worry about? And as of June the 22nd, this year, 40% of Americans worry most about the economy. So the wealthiest country in the world worries about its wealth. At first glance, that might seem odd, but then really it's not. The two things do go together. I mean, you would think, well, I got plenty of money, I shouldn't have to worry about anything. Well, yeah, there are a lot of things else to be worried about. You know, your health, number one, would be, well, what happens when your health gets bad, you got to go to the hospital. The hospital's going to get it all. Right? It's one of those kind of things. Money can't buy you everything. And let me share with you 2 important things that money can't buy at all, and that is your significance nor your security. Money cannot provide those 2 things. A lot of people want money for that very reason, thinking it's going to make me important. It's going to make me secure because I won't need anybody's help. It will not buy those 2 things. It won't happen. So in our text today, Jesus addresses these 2 issues of wealth and worry. And so it would do us good to heed His words and rid ourselves of a bunch of headaches. All right, so Matthew 6, 19 through 21. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Now, what I want you to notice in that, first of all, is that we have a choice. We have a choice in what we treasure. You choose what is a treasure. That's your choice. All right? And you choose where you're going to store your treasure. All right? So, you choose whether you want earthly treasures or if you want heavenly treasures. So don't accumulate for yourselves things here on earth, but accumulate wealth and treasures of heaven. And for a lot of people, that's a difficult thing to talk about, storing up treasures in heaven. I mean, after all, aren't there so many things right here on earth we want? You know, we think, well, if I just get this, I'll be happy. And we get that, well, you're not happy. And you know, well, if I just get this, I'll be happy. Well, no, and then you're not happy. And then, well, if I just get this, I'll be happy. And before you know it, you've got so many things that control you, you don't have time to do what you want to do. Because you're being controlled by a whole lot of things. So choose what you want. But let me ask this question. Is it really wrong to accumulate money here on earth? And my answer would be, it all depends on what you do with it. It all depends on what you do with it. Money itself is not the problem. If you look at 1 Timothy 6:10, it says that the love of money is the root of all sorts of evil. All right? Now, let me say, I said it in Sunday school and I'll say it again. You don't have to have money to love it. Think about the number of people who get caught in these get-rich-quick schemes, thinking they're going to get rich and they lose everything they've got. All right? You don't have to have money to love it. It's the love of money is the root of all sorts of evil. So let's think about the problems of earthly wealth. First of all, it's temporary. It's temporary. I mean, Jesus said, don't store up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and thieves break in and steal. Think about in Bible times. Wealth, they looked at wealth maybe a little bit different than we do. Wealth in that time, a lot of it depended on your clothing. People that wore a lot of blues and purples, that indicated you were a wealthy person. All right? So your wealth was in your clothing, but moth can eat your clothing real quick, can't it? And so don't trust just your clothing. Rust, their coins weren't made out of metals exactly like ours. Their coins did tend to rust. And so coins didn't last all that long. Or where thieves can break in and steal. What are most of their houses made out of? Mud? Clay? Well, how easy would it to take a pick and dig through the mud and clay to get in the house and steal whatever's in there of value? It'd be very easy. So Jesus said, don't store up your treasures on things like that. Now, today, we don't worry about that. Well, do we? I mean, think about it this way. I mean, how easy do we lose wealth today? The stock market drops. How many hundreds of thousands of dollars did you just lose? You know, or thieves still find a way to break in your house, right? They don't dig through it now, but they still find a way to break in. And if you're storing things there. Or somebody steals your identity. How many of us have had that happen? Or steal your credit card number or your debit card number and wipe out your bank account. It's gone. Those things happen easily, don't they? And just because you've got some money today is not a guarantee that you're going to have it tomorrow. So we don't need to put our trust in wealth. You know, I see a lot of TV commercials that tell you need to invest in gold because financial times are hard. You need to invest in gold. All right? The gold is something we value here on earth. But you know what? I read about heaven. Gold is pavement. The streets are paved with pure gold. So gold's not even that valuable. Right? There are things that are more valuable. And what we consider valuable here is temporary. But also, wealth distorts our vision. Wealth distorts our vision. Matthew 6:22 and 23 says, the eye is the lamp of the body. So then if your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. So if the light that is in you is darkness, how great is the darkness. Now Jesus represents our affections as if they were an eye. All right? Think about it. If the eye is single, then it can't be swayed or distorted. All right? You can see clearly. But if the eye is not single, say we're focused on other things, then we lose our focus. And that's applied to us spiritually. And we need to understand that spiritual application. If our eye is single, if our eye is focused on Jesus, we don't get distorted. But if we start looking at other things, like wealth, we start looking at other things, we become double-minded. We even have a tendency to doubt what's coming next. And a double-minded man cannot serve the Lord. It can't happen. We have to have a clear focus. The rest of that verse, 1 Timothy 6:10, we read, for the love of money is the root of all sorts of evils. It goes on to say, and some by longing for it have wandered away from the faith and have pierced themselves with many griefs. So if your eye is not single, if it's doubled, if it's distorted vision, it will lead you away from your faith. So we have to be careful about that. And so that's why Jesus said in Matthew 6:21, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. What do we treasure? Things of this world or things of the world to come? Do we treasure Jesus or do we treasure what material possessions we may have? We got to make sure our vision, our focus is where it needs to be. Well, how do you know which one you're focused on? Look in your checkbook. What do you spend your money on? Because what you spend your money on indicates where your heart is. So think about it. Where do you spend your money? But the third thing Jesus tells us here about wealth is that wealth can be your God. Wealth can be your God. Matthew 6:24. No one can serve two masters. For he will hate one and love the other, or he would be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God in wealth. Or in the original language, it would have said you cannot serve God in mammon. Mammon was a Syrian god of money. All right? And so wealth is personified in this Syrian god. And so wealth is a god that's competing with the one true God. And guess what? You cannot serve both. We have to make a choice. Which one we're going to serve? It's like the Bob Dylan song from years ago, recorded in 1979, but it says, the chorus says this: you're going to have to serve somebody. Yes, you're going to have to serve somebody. Well, it may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you're going to have to serve somebody. We all have a master. And if we're not following Jesus, then we're following the devil. If we're not following Jesus, it very well may be that we're running after mammon, after wealth, and not serving Him. So it's a choice. A choice rings out throughout all the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. Joshua said it this way, "Choose you this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." It's a choice we have to make. So how do I use my money to serve the Lord? Well, Martin Luther put it this way, that there are 3 conversions that we have to make. 3 conversions. The first one is a conversion of the heart. Yeah, we got to get our heart right with God. So the first one's a conversion of the heart. The second one is a conversion of the mind. Because the heart and the mind need to work together on this, right? In our serving God. And then he said the third one is a conversion of the purse. Conversion of the purse, conversion of your wallet, conversion of your money. And Martin Luther said that's the most difficult one. That's the most difficult one. Charles Spurgeon said it this way, with some Christians, the last part of their nature that ever gets sanctified is their pockets. All right? It's where the tithe becomes a very important thing. There are a lot of people argue and fuss over the tithe. You know, are we supposed to or not? I think that's a beginning point. Don't think that's the last part of it. I think that's where we begin, with the tithe. And I think we begin teaching that to our children very early so that they can understand the principle of budgeting, the tithe. But what's so important is when we understand that we give God 10% of whatever we have, that's where we begin putting our hearts in the right place. Because that's the hardest part to give up, right? Giving up your money. You think, well, I could use that. And maybe you could. But remember this, if you give God 10%, that 90% that you have left over will go way farther than 100%. And I know that doesn't make sense mathematically, but spiritually it makes all kinds of sense. It's where your trust is. Who do you trust? Because let me tell you this, you cannot outgive God. I don't care how hard you try. You cannot outgive God. You put God first, He's going to make sure you've got everything you need. Everything you need. All right? So the first part is giving ourselves completely to Him. But the second part is remembering who it is that owns everything anyway. Psalms 50 verse 10. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. Just before that, well, we all know that part. Just before that, he says He owns all the living creatures in the forest. But He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. He don't just own those cattle. He owns the hills. He owns it all. Who created it? He did. It's all His anyway. So whatever you have is not yours. It's His. He made it. He loaned it to you to be a good steward of what you have in His kingdom. And so He expects you to use it in a way that honors Him. And the third thing that He tells us that we need to do is to use our material wealth to bless those around us. Use our material wealth to bless those around us. All right? Think about it. Think about the rich young ruler. He came to Jesus. And he said, what must I do to inherit eternal life? And Jesus started listing the commandments. And the rich young ruler looked at him and said, I've kept all of those from my youth up. And you notice something in that passage? Jesus doesn't even argue with him. what Jesus does say is there's one thing you lack. Go sell everything you've got, give it to the poor, and come follow me. And we all know what the rich young ruler did, right? He hung his head and he walked away because he had great wealth. What Jesus expects us to do with our money, just besides giving to the church, what we're supposed to give the church, but then we're supposed to use it, the rest of it, in a way to help others. All right? And so we want to give you an opportunity to be able to do that. We've been hearing all about the flooding in Kentucky. IDES has been to Kentucky, surveyed the situation. They've picked out 2 churches in particular that they're going to be working through to help the people in that flood zone. All right? So, in a couple of weeks from today is first Sunday, say third Sunday this month, we're going to take up an offering that's into Kentucky to help the people in Kentucky. Now, put yourself in their place. They've lost everything. It'll take years to ever straighten out what's been lost in Kentucky. But they need our help now. And this is a way we can bless them. Using what we have to bless them. You know, I just coordinating volunteers to go there and help. It's a long ways to Kentucky. We may not be able to get there to help physically, but we all got something we can share to send to Kentucky. And so we need to use our money in a way that blesses other people. All right? So, we have to master our money. We have to use it to serve the Lord. So that settles the problem of wealth. But what about worry? And are the two connected? Well, look at the statement Jesus starts with in verse 25. For this reason, now he's just finished talking about money, and he comes into verse 25 and he says, for this reason I say to you, do not be worried about your life. Are they connected? Yeah. Because what do we do with money? We take care of the things we worried about in this life, right? That's what we do with money. So what do people worry about? What you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, what you're going to wear. All right? You know, and how many of us have been guilty of saying at one meal and getting ready for the next, well, what are we going to eat for the next meal? All right? I've been guilty of that. Who hasn't, you know? Don't worry about it. We'll find something to eat. How many people have ever said, I don't have a thing to wear, and there's a closet full of clothes? I think we've all been guilty of that too, right? Why do we worry about things like what we're going to eat and what we're going to wear? I mean, why didn't Jesus talk about other things that we worry about? Because these are the most important things in life. How are you going to live if you don't eat and you don't drink? Okay, water. Most precious thing God ever gave us. Because we can't live without it. All right? Can't do it. We can't live without food. But Jesus said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. So don't worry. Don't worry about your food. Don't worry about what you're going to drink. Don't worry about your clothes. I mean, maybe you don't have what you want, but you have clothes to wear. And that's what's important. 3 times in this passage, Jesus says, do not worry. 3 times. Verse 25, verse 31, verse 34, and all 3 times it's about these things. About what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, what you're going to wear. And so this is an argument from greater to lesser. If you're not to worry about the most critical things of life, why are you going to worry about the rest of it? Don't do it. So, that's easy to say, don't do it. But what reasons are given that I should not worry? That's important. Jesus brought those reasons out. And so let's think on those reasons for a minute, why you shouldn't worry. Number one, you are valuable to God. You are valuable. Think about it. He created you, then He redeemed you. And you think you're not important? You are important. But Jesus used the birds as an example. Look at the birds. Look at the birds. Now think about the birds. I mean, you look at those little birds. They don't sow, they don't reap, they don't gather crops. But God feeds them. God takes care of them. God takes care of His creation. All right? Think about it. Think about those little birds. And yesterday I was sitting and typing in my computer, sitting in the living room and watching my hummingbird feeder. And just watching the little birds and how peaceful and calming it was just to watch the little birds as they fluttered up there trying to get that little bit of sugar water. And watch them. I mean, it was almost like they were dancing together. They kept flying up and down like this, and back to the feeder, and then they go up and they come down. And they're beautiful. There's a beautiful green color on those birds. We got some that have red, but the ones yesterday were green. And I mean, it just made me feel good just sitting and watching. That's their purpose, right? I mean, what else is a hummingbird going to do? But his purpose was just to make me calm and feel good. And he accomplished that. God takes care of His creation. And how we need to understand that He does. And because He created you and He redeemed you, He's not going to leave you. He's going to always be there and make sure He's provided whatever you need. Second reason Jesus gave us not to worry is that worry doesn't accomplish anything. Look at verse 27. And which of you can worry, by worrying, can add a single day to his lifespan? I'm going to tell you this, if you're worrying, it's not going to add a day to your lifespan. It may take away some days from your lifespan. Worry causes ulcers and all kinds of other health issues, and it can kill you. It doesn't accomplish anything. It doesn't solve any problems. It doesn't provide any solutions. Somebody put it this way: worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't take you anywhere. And how we need to understand that. The third problem with worry is that it creates doubt and a lack of faith. Look, Matthew 6:30. If God so clothes the grass of the field, which is alive today, tomorrow is thrown in the furnace, will He not much more clothe you, you of little faith? I mean, just take a look at the grass. It's almost like you can watch it growing, you know. It's rained so much and got plenty. You can just see it growing. Every day I can see a difference in my yard. It grows, and it grows fast. Why? Because God's taking care of it. God's given it what it needs to grow, and it's growing. You know, we cut it down, and there it is again. Before you know it, it's growing. All right, it's here today, it's gone tomorrow, but God looks after it. God takes care of it. If He's going to take care of the grass, why can't we trust Him to take care of us? Worry is practical atheism. It's not trusting God to provide what we need. And that's the next thing. God knows what you need, so you don't have to worry. Because God already knows what you need. Look at verse 31, 32. Do not worry, saying, what are we to eat? What are we to drink? What are we to wear? For the Gentiles eagerly seek all these things, for your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things. We don't want to be like the world. We're supposed to be separate. We're supposed to come out from the world and show the world what it means to live for Christ, and I don't have to worry about material things. Because God will give me what I need. All right? Maybe I don't drive the nicest car. Maybe I don't live in the biggest house. But God's going to give me everything I need. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't need a whole lot. Because God's taking care of things. I don't need a whole lot. We got to trust Him. So what do we do to not worry? What do we do so that we don't worry? Because let's be honest, we all have done it, and we all probably do it again. So what do we do to keep from worry? Matthew 6:33 says this, but seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be provided to you. All these things, the food, the drink, the clothing, the things that are essential for life, God's going to provide everything you need as long as you put Him first. He has to be first. And so we have to seek Him. We have to seek His kingdom. That's the church. We have to seek His righteousness. That's Jesus Christ. All right, those are the things we got to be seeking and looking for. And God's going to provide. And so when we're tempted to worry, pray. Seek God. Put Him first. And that'll take care of the worry. But there's a second thing He says here that we've got to do. Verse 34. So do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Live one day at a time. Why are you going to worry about what happened yesterday? Can you do anything about it? If there's anything you could do about whatever happened yesterday, then do it and quit worrying. But most likely there's nothing you can do about it, so just forget it. Don't worry about yesterday. You're going to worry about tomorrow? You don't even know you're going to be here tomorrow. So why worry about what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or next month? Now that doesn't mean that we don't plan ahead, but we're not going to worry about things. We'll let it go. We're going to live today. And even more importantly, we need to live for right now. Because we're not promised the next 5 minutes. We'll live for right now. What am I doing to live for Jesus right now? Well, we're all here to worship and praise Him right now. Okay, so that's great. But every thought during the day, we ought to think about, how am I serving God? And serving God, God's going to give me all I need. I don't have anything to worry about. Okay, let it go. We don't need to worry. Because we can't fix tomorrow's worries. Yesterday's already gone. Live it today. So, when God redeemed you, He freed you to seek Him because He wants to take care of you. And He wants you to know He's taking care of you. So you don't have to worry about things in this world. There's one guy in particular, he always asks me whenever I see him, have you listened to the world news? And my response to him almost every day is, I've quit listening to the world news. I'm not going to worry about what's going on in the world. I can't solve the problems of the world. And all I know is that Jesus may show up at any moment. I want to be serving Him. I'm not going to worry about the world. So don't worry about the world. Seek your heavenly treasures. What can I do right now to store up treasures in heaven? Well, we're doing that by worshiping. But when we leave here, what can we do to make sure we're storing up treasures in heaven? That could be sharing Jesus with somebody else. It may be giving money to somebody that's in need. Or it may be trying to help teach somebody how to manage what they have and how to put the Lord first. It may be any number of things. But whatever you worry about, give it to God and let Him fix it. Because He can do a whole lot better job than I can. Let Him take care of it. But everything that's holding you back from trusting God and serving God has been removed by this text, if you put God first. So the question today is this: what are you seeking? What are you seeking? Are you seeking God and His kingdom? Are you seeking the things in this world? That's your choice. Which one is it? But when you trust the things of this world, understand this: your worries are going to be greatly multiplied. But when you trust God, He will provide what you need and take care of your worries. So, who or what are you trusting? Who or what are you trusting? If you have a decision you need to make for Christ today, we're going to stand and sing the power of your love.